The greatest form of destruction is indifference, because people thrive on reaction and feed off attention, whether positive or negative. And when you cut off that energy, they begin to wither without you ever lifting a hand or raising your voice. Because human beings who try to control, manipulate, or intimidate are addicted to the fuel they get when you react. And the moment you stop giving it to them, you're pulling the rug out from under their feet, and they stumble in their own emptiness, powerless without the very thing they once used against you, which was your energy, your care, your attention. Think about it, most conflicts, most arguments, most toxic situations, they survive only because two people are engaged. They survive because one pushes and the other pulls. One throws fuel and the other throws fire, and that cycle never ends until someone decides to cut the cord, until someone refuses to play the game anymore, and that someone has to be you. When you choose indifference, you are not weak, you are powerful, because it takes immense strength to walk away when every part of you wants to react, when your pride wants to defend itself, when your anger wants to strike back. But indifference says, I am bigger than this moment. I am greater than this fight. I will not let you dictate how I feel, how I act, or how I live my life. Indifference is not silence because you have no words. It is silence because your words are too valuable to be wasted. It is not walking away because you can't fight. It is walking away because you have already won the fight before it even started. Because you realize that the only way to truly destroy a toxic person is not to match their chaos, but to starve them of the chaos they crave. When someone insults you, when they try to get under your skin, when they push for a reaction, they are giving you bait, and the moment you bite, they know they have you. They know they own your emotions. But when you look them straight in the eye and feel nothing, when you hear their words and it's as if they never entered your space, they lose. Because what they want most is to see you shaken. They want to see you rattled. They want proof that they still matter in your world. But indifference tells them they don't. Indifference tells them that their power is an illusion, and illusions collapse the moment they're no longer believed. The people who once thought they could control you, who believed you would always bend, who relied on your emotional reactions to feel strong, they will fear you the most when you become untouchable, when your peace becomes impenetrable, when their words, their actions, their manipulations no longer move you even an inch. That is how you destroy without ever lifting a hand, because nothing frustrates a toxic person more than realizing they have no effect on you anymore. You see, destruction doesn't always look like fire and noise. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like calm. Sometimes it looks like you choosing to invest your time, your thoughts, your energy somewhere else, somewhere productive, somewhere that builds you instead of breaks you. That is why indifference is the greatest form of destruction, because it kills their influence and revives your freedom at the same time. You start to notice that when you stop reacting, when you stop feeding their ego, they begin to shrink. They get louder at first, more desperate because they can feel the control slipping, but eventually when they realize there's no more fuel, no more energy, they are left to sit in their own emptiness. And that is something far heavier than anything you could have ever thrown at them. You don't need revenge. You don't need to argue. You don't need to fight, because all of those things still tie you to them. All of those things still keep you engaged in their game. But indifference frees you while destroying them in the process. So the next time someone tries to drag you into drama, the next time someone tests your patience, the next time someone looks for your reaction, remind yourself that the greatest weapon you hold is not your anger, not your pride, not your voice, but your ability to walk away without caring, your ability to stay calm, your ability to remain centered, because that is where true strength lies. Let them talk, let them shout, let them gossip, let them scheme, because none of it touches you when you stand rooted in indifference. And in that moment, you have already destroyed everything they thought they could ever do to you, without saying a word, without raising a hand, without lowering yourself to their level. Because indifference is not weakness, it is dominance. And it is the most powerful way to show that no one owns your peace but you. The way you truly dismantle someone who thrives on control is by mastering your own emotions, because emotions are the strings they pull to make you dance. Emotions are the levers they use to shift you off balance. And once you learn how to hold those emotions steady, they lose their grip entirely, because a person who cannot provoke you cannot manipulate you, and a person who cannot manipulate you has no power over you at all. This is why self-mastery is the ultimate shield, because people can throw insults, they can twist stories, they can spread lies, they can try to embarrass you, but if you stand unshaken, if you keep your composure, if you breathe through the storm instead of being consumed by it, you show them that nothing they do can penetrate your inner core. And that is the destruction they fear the most, because without your emotional reaction, they are left powerless, exposed, and irrelevant. Think about the moments when you lost control in the past, when anger got the best of you, when sadness consumed you, when fear dictated your choices. Those were the moments when you gave your power away, not because the other person was stronger, but because you allowed your emotions to run the show. And they knew it, they watched it, they counted on it, because that's how they controlled you, by pressing the right buttons at the right time. But once you master those buttons, once you no longer react on impulse, once you pause and take control before responding, they no longer have access to you. Another way you dismantle someone without ever raising your voice or striking back, is by mastering the art of silence. Because silence is not weakness, silence is not submission, silence is power, and it unnerves those who thrive on conflict more than anything else. Toxic people, manipulators, aggressors, they all crave a reaction. They feed on the chaos that comes when you defend yourself, explain yourself, or argue back, because every word you throw into the fire becomes fuel for them to twist, spin, and use against you. But when you refuse to play their game, when you offer nothing but silence, you starve them of what they need most, and they crumble under the weight of their own noise. Silence makes them face themselves. Silence turns the spotlight back on their behavior. And silence communicates a strength louder than any counterattack ever could, because it shows that you are in control, not them. Picture the last time someone tried to bait you into an argument. They poked, they provoked, they pushed every button just to get you to explode. And maybe you gave in, maybe you fought back, maybe you shouted louder. But what happened after? You walked away drained, exhausted, maybe even guilty, while they walked away satisfied. Because they got exactly what they wanted. They got access to your energy. They got proof that they could control your state of mind. Now imagine the same scenario, but instead of reacting, you stay silent, you breathe, you let them spill their anger, their manipulation, their performance, and you give them nothing, not a word, not an explanation, not even a hint of frustration, just calm, steady silence. And watch how quickly they unravel, because your silence becomes a mirror. It forces them to sit in their own mess with no one to deflect it onto. Silence does not mean you accept mistreatment. Silence does not mean you let people walk over you. Silence means you choose your battles wisely. It means you understand that not every attack deserves a counterattack. And it means you recognize that the most effective way to destroy someone who feeds on conflict is to deny them the very thing they want. There is a dignity in silence, a poise, a discipline that screams louder than anger ever could. And it makes people realize they cannot access you the way they thought they could. In silence, you protect your energy. In silence, you protect your peace. And in silence, you remind them that while they may control the noise outside, they will never control the stillness within you. This is the quiet strength that unsettles toxic people, the unshakable calm that makes them fear you, because when you no longer respond on their terms, you've already won without ever needing to attack. The fourth way to destroy someone without ever attacking them is through the unshakable consistency of your character. Because when you live with integrity and align your actions with your values, you create a kind of power that no manipulator, no liar, no toxic person can stand against. Most people who try to break you rely on inconsistency. They want you to bend under pressure. They want you to slip into hypocrisy. They want you to react emotionally so they can point and say, "See, you are no different from me." But when you remain steady in who you are, when your values don't shift depending on the room you're in, or the person you're dealing with, you silently dismantle their influence over you. Integrity is not just about being honest with others, it's about being brutally honest with yourself, about asking yourself daily, am I acting in alignment with the standards I claim to live by? Because if you are, then nothing they say, nothing they throw at you can stick. Consistency is kryptonite to toxic people, because it means you're not predictable in the way they need you to be. They cannot bait you into actions that betray your character. They cannot provoke you into contradictions, and they cannot manipulate you into playing the same destructive games they live in. When you show up the same way day after day, When your boundaries stay firm no matter who tests them, when your words and actions line up even under pressure, you build a kind of credibility that no smear campaign, no rumor, no lie can erase. Think about it, who do people ultimately trust more? The one who shouts accusations, spreads gossip, and points fingers, or the one who stays consistent, calm, and true to themselves? Over time, consistency outlasts chaos, and while toxic people burn through energy trying to manipulate every situation, your steady presence becomes undeniable proof of your strength. Living with integrity doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you refuse to abandon yourself for the sake of approval or fear of rejection. It means your yes means yes, your no means no, and your character doesn't shift just because someone is watching. The real destruction comes from the fact that manipulators and liars thrive on inconsistency. They count on people not paying attention. They count on you forgetting your own standards. But when you refuse to play that game and instead embody integrity relentlessly, you reveal their instability for what it is. They may try to discredit you, they may try to drag your name, but time always tells the truth. And while their mask slips, your consistency becomes your shield. Every toxic person is threatened by someone whose character doesn't waver. Because it exposes them, it highlights the difference between a life lived with discipline and a life lived through deception. And here's the thing, you don't have to expose them yourself. You don't have to call them out. You don't even have to attack. All you have to do is stay aligned with who you are, and life, time, and truth will do the work for you. That is how you destroy someone without lifting a finger, by living in such a way that their chaos cannot penetrate your peace, by being so consistent that their lies collapse under the weight of your truth, and by standing so firm in your values that the world eventually sees who you are and who they are without you ever needing to fight. The fifth way to destroy anyone without ever attacking them is by mastering silence, because silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is the weapon toxic people cannot stand. Most people think that by staying quiet they are letting someone win, but the truth is the opposite. Silence forces the other person to face themselves without your energy feeding the fire. Every manipulator, every attacker, every toxic person is waiting for your reaction. They want your anger. They want your outburst. They want your emotional explosion. Because once you lose your composure, they gain control. But when you choose silence, you strip them of their power. Silence is not about shutting down. It's about standing in your strength and refusing to give someone your attention, your words, or your emotional energy when they don't deserve it. Think about it. When someone tries to insult you, provoke you, or tear you down, what happens if you don't respond? What happens if you hold eye contact? Stay calm and simply give them nothing. At first, they get louder, they push harder, they try every trick to make you break, but eventually their power dies out because they realize they are talking to a wall that won't give them what they crave. Silence exposes desperation, and it shows who is really in control. When you argue, when you defend yourself unnecessarily, when you let your emotions run wild, you hand them ammunition, you hand them the victory they wanted, but silence robs them of that win. It leaves them spinning in their own noise. And the louder they get, the more obvious it becomes to everyone watching who actually has the power. Silence is also about discipline, because it takes far more strength to stay calm than to lash out. Anyone can shout, anyone can insult back, anyone can get angry, but very few can master themselves enough to remain still while chaos erupts around them. Toxic people hate this because it leaves them powerless, it makes them feel invisible, and it reveals that they cannot affect you the way they thought they could. When you practice silence, you're not suppressing your feelings, you're controlling them. You're saying to yourself, my peace matters more than proving a point. My power matters more than winning an argument. And my dignity matters more than meeting someone in the gutter. The beauty of silence is that it speaks louder than words. People notice when you don't engage. People notice when you don't get dragged into drama. And they respect the discipline it takes to remain composed. Over time, silence builds your reputation as someone untouchable, someone not easily manipulated, someone who cannot be baited into foolish battles. That is why silence destroys without attacking, because it shifts the battlefield entirely, it forces the other person to fight with themselves, and it reveals their lack of control compared to your discipline. When you are silent, you are not weak, you are not passive, you are strategic, because silence buys you time to think, to choose, to decide how to move next without rushing into mistakes. It keeps you in control of yourself, and the person who controls themselves will always be more powerful than the one trying to control others. Toxic people crumble when they realize you are not reacting, because it means you've seen through their game, and once you see through a manipulator's game, they lose. The truth is, sometimes the most powerful statement you can ever make is no statement at all. Just silence, unshakable, steady, and strong, because in that silence, you are not only protecting yourself, you are destroying them with the realization that nothing they say or do can move you. The sixth way to destroy anyone without ever attacking them is by mastering consistency, because consistency is the slow, steady force that breaks down every manipulator, every hater, and every toxic person who thinks they can derail you. Most people underestimate the power of showing up every single day, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, reliable, and focused. Because toxic people feed on chaos, they thrive on distraction. They want you to lose your rhythm. They want you to fall apart and give up. But when you remain consistent, you rob them of their influence. Consistency is what makes people powerful. Because it is predictable strength, it is discipline lived out every day, and it creates results that no insult, no rumor, no opposition can erase. Think about how a toxic person works. They throw drama into your life. They spread negativity. They push your buttons to make you stop moving forward. And what happens when you keep going anyway? What happens when you show up to your goals, your work, your dreams every single day, no matter what storm they create? It destroys them because they realize they cannot control your path, they cannot knock you off your mission, and they cannot distract you from becoming who you are meant to be. Toxic people want to win by making you inconsistent. They want to win by making you doubt yourself. But consistency is proof that they have no control over you. Consistency is also one of the hardest things for toxic people to grasp, because their lives are built on manipulation and reaction, not discipline and structure. They expect you to react like they do, to spiral when things get tough, to collapse under pressure. But when you remain consistent, you prove that you are different. You prove that you live by standards, not emotions. Over time, consistency builds momentum, and momentum becomes unstoppable. Imagine being so consistent that no matter what someone says, no matter what they do, you are still rising, still growing, still moving forward, and eventually your results speak louder than any words they tried to use against you. Consistency also destroys quietly, because you don't have to announce it, you don't have to prove anything in the moment, you just let your actions build day after day, and those actions eventually create undeniable success. People can argue with your words, they can deny your character, they can attack your reputation, but they cannot erase the results that come from consistent effort. Every time you show up despite opposition, you are silently destroying their belief that they can control you. Every time you stay on track, you are proving their influence is worthless. And the more consistent you become, the less they matter in your life, because your energy is invested in growth, not in responding to their games. The truth is, consistency is not glamorous, it is not dramatic, but it is powerful. Because most people quit, most people give up when things get hard, but you don't. You keep moving, you keep working, you keep showing up, and that makes you unstoppable. Toxic people hate this, because it means they cannot find an opening. They cannot predict when you'll break, because you never do. They see you winning, not with big victories overnight, but with small victories every day. And it eats at them because it proves that discipline beats manipulation every time. Consistency also builds trust, not just in the eyes of others, but in yourself. When you stay consistent, you start to trust your own word, you start to believe in your own discipline, and that confidence radiates. It makes people respect you, it makes opportunities come your way, and it makes toxic people irrelevant, because no one cares about their noise when your results are visible. You don't have to fight them, you don't have to attack them, you just keep showing up, and that alone destroys their power. What most people don't realize is that consistency is a form of silent defiance, because it says no matter what you do, I will not stop. No matter how hard you try, I will not quit. No matter what storm you bring, I will outlast you. And outlasting someone is the ultimate destruction, because it proves that your discipline, your character, and your mission are stronger than any attack. That is the secret toxic people never want you to realize, that the best way to destroy them is not to fight, not to argue, not to attack, but simply to keep going when they thought you would stop. Consistency is the great equalizer because talent can fade, charm can fail, manipulation can crumble, but consistency builds power that lasts. So if you want to destroy without attacking, become the most consistent person in the room, because eventually everyone else gets tired, everyone else falls off. But you are still standing, still moving, still rising, and nothing they can say or do will ever change that. The seventh way to destroy anyone without ever attacking them is by mastering emotional control, because the moment you stop letting people pull your strings, you take away the only weapon they truly have against you. Toxic people, manipulators, and those who thrive on control understand that their power lies not in their words, not in their actions, but in your reactions. They poke at you, they insult you, they create chaos, and then they sit back waiting for the explosion. The second you refuse to give them that satisfaction, you destroy them silently, because nothing frustrates someone who feeds on drama more than a person who remains calm in the face of their storms. Emotional control is not weakness, it is strength at the highest level, because it proves that your inner world belongs to you and no one else. Think about how many times people try to trigger you. They want you to lash out, they want you to argue, they want you to defend yourself, because in that moment you are no longer in control, you are on their stage, playing by their rules. But when you master your emotions, you flip the script completely. Instead of them controlling the energy, you decide the pace, you decide the tone, and you decide when or if you will respond at all. Silence, composure, and calmness are not passive, they are powerful weapons, because they expose how powerless the other person really is. When you stay unbothered, you show them their games don't work, and that destroys them far more than shouting ever could. Emotional control also builds presence, because when people realize they cannot shake you, they start to respect you even if they don't want to. They may not admit it, but they know you are different. They know you have a strength most people don't, and that is intimidating. Imagine someone throwing insult after insult, creating problem after problem, and you simply responding with calm clarity, not anger, not fear, just composure. That alone breaks their spirit, because they are used to people crumbling. They are used to people handing over control. But when you stay grounded, you take their favorite weapon out of their hands, leaving them exposed and powerless. Emotional control also keeps you sharp, because when you are calm, you see clearly. You are not blinded by rage. You are not clouded by fear. You are not distracted by their noise. You see exactly who they are, what they're doing, and how weak their tactics truly are. And that vision gives you the upper hand, because you make decisions from strength, not from reaction. Toxic people want you off balance, they want you impulsive, but when you are steady, you are untouchable. It's like standing in the middle of a storm, but instead of panicking, you remain grounded, unshaken, and the storm eventually dies out on its own. There is also a silent dignity in emotional control, because it tells the world that you value yourself too much to be dragged into someone else's chaos. You're not available for games, you're not available for manipulation, and you're not available for petty battles. You are focused on your mission, your growth, and your peace. And here's the truth. Nothing destroys a manipulator faster than realizing they no longer have access to your emotions, because that's where they drew their power from. Without your reactions, they are empty, exposed, and irrelevant. But emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you don't get angry or hurt. It means you don't let those emotions dictate your actions. You acknowledge them, you process them, but you don't hand them over to someone who doesn't deserve that level of access to you. This is where true power lies, in knowing that no one can touch your inner world unless you allow them to, and the less you allow, the stronger you become. The beautiful part about emotional control is that it makes people wonder what you know. It makes them wonder why you are so calm. It makes them question themselves. They start to feel small, because if you are not reacting, maybe their words don't matter, maybe their power is an illusion, and maybe they are not as important as they thought they were. That self-doubt eats at them because they crave control, they crave validation, but you give them nothing. And nothing is the hardest thing for a manipulator to handle, because they can't fight silence, they can't fight calmness, and they can't fight someone who refuses to play the game. The ultimate destruction comes when they realize they can't move you. They can throw everything they have at you, but you will still remain calm, you will still remain focused, and you will still remain in control of yourself. That is what true strength looks like, not in shouting, not in proving, but in mastering yourself so deeply that no one else can master you. That is how you destroy without ever attacking, by becoming the one thing toxic people cannot handle, someone who cannot be controlled, manipulated, or shaken. Emotional control is not just survival. It is dominance, because it shows the world that you are untouchable from the inside out. The eighth way to destroy anyone without ever attacking them is by living so well that their negativity becomes irrelevant and their attempts to bring you down fade into the background of your success. Nothing unsettles a toxic person more than watching you rise without them, watching you build a life filled with purpose, growth, and peace while they are stuck in the same cycles of bitterness and envy. When you focus on yourself, on your goals, on your discipline, you quietly dismantle their power because you're no longer giving them energy. Instead of chasing revenge or wasting time on their games, you pour every ounce of energy into building a life they can't touch, and that in itself is destruction at the highest level. You're showing them that their words, their actions, their negativity don't matter, because you have chosen to rise above it. Living well is not about flaunting or proving anything to anyone. It is about showing up for yourself in such a powerful way that no one else's opinion matters. Toxic people want your attention, they want your reaction, they want to see you break down. But the moment you take that attention back and redirect it toward your growth, they lose. They thrive when you waste your energy on them, but they wither when you stop playing their game. Every achievement, every step forward, every moment of joy you create for yourself becomes a silent message to them you did not win. That message cuts deeper than any insult ever could, because it shows them that even after everything, you are still standing, still rising, and still becoming stronger. The key is to shift your mindset from proving them wrong to proving yourself right. Because the truth is, living well isn't about them, it's about you. It's about realizing that your energy is too valuable to waste on pettiness. Your focus is too sharp to be diluted by negativity. And your mission is too important to be interrupted by people who don't matter. Toxic people will always try to distract you, but when you refuse to give them your attention, you starve them of the only thing they crave. You don't destroy them with anger, you destroy them with indifference, with discipline, and with a relentless commitment to building a life so full that their presence becomes meaningless. This path also forces you to grow stronger because it requires resilience. To live well despite the attacks, despite the negativity, despite the attempts to drag you down, you must master yourself. You must learn to keep your vision clear, even when people try to cloud it. To keep your heart steady even when they try to shake it. To keep your focus locked on what matters even when distractions surround you. That level of self-mastery is rare, and when you reach it, you automatically separate yourself from those who spend their lives feeding on chaos. They cannot follow you into that space, because it requires discipline, it requires accountability, and it requires courage. Things toxic people rarely have. Living well also means choosing peace over battles that don't matter. Every time you decide to walk away instead of engaging, every time you choose progress instead of drama, every time you create instead of destroy, you are winning. And that kind of victory is the most frustrating for someone who wanted to see you fail, because it shows them they never had real power over you in the first place. They only had the power you gave them, and once you reclaim it, you become untouchable. The best revenge is not in proving them wrong, it's in showing them they are irrelevant, and nothing does that more powerfully than thriving in your own lane. But here's the deeper truth: when you live well, you not only destroy your enemies, you inspire others. People watching from the outside see your resilience, they see your strength, they see how you rose above the noise, and it gives them permission to do the same. Your success becomes a light, and that light destroys not just the toxicity aimed at you, but the toxicity in those who witness your journey. You break cycles not by fighting fire with fire, but by becoming an example of what's possible when you refuse to let negativity define you. That ripple effect is more powerful than any direct attack could ever be, because it extends beyond you and impacts everyone around you. Living well also brings freedom, because you no longer carry the burden of proving yourself to people who are never going to appreciate you. You stop wasting your energy on convincing, on defending, on fighting battles that don't matter. Instead, you channel that energy into creating, into building, into living a life that feels true to you. And when you reach that point, when you no longer need validation, you become unstoppable. No one can destroy you. Because your strength doesn't come from them, it comes from within, and that inner strength makes you unshakable. So the ultimate way to destroy without attacking is to rise so high that their attempts to pull you down look foolish. To live so well that their negativity looks small. To focus so deeply on your path that they become nothing more than background noise. Success, peace, happiness. These are weapons they cannot fight, because they reveal the truth that you don't need them, you don't fear them, and you don't even see them as relevant. And when you reach that level of self-mastery, you have already destroyed them. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with the undeniable power of living well.